Hey everyone, this is Theo. In today's video, we are going to review the iPad Air 3rd generation. My review will be from the perspective of an artist, so I'm not going to focus too much on the specifications, on benchmarks. Instead, we will look at how good this iPad is when it comes to drawing. So this is the new iPad Air that now supports Apple Pencil, which is great because when it comes to drawing on the iPad, the Apple Pencil is the best stylus. However, this is sold separately, so this is an extra US $99. The design looks very nice. It's very thin. Let me show you the iPad 6 from 2018. The Air is slightly thinner than the iPad 6. This is the connector for the smart keyboard. From the top, we can see the iPad Air is slightly wider compared to the iPad 9.7 inch. We have thin bezels on the sides, thicker ones at the top and bottom, volume buttons on the side, power button at the top. It still has the 3.5mm headphone jack, and this is the fingerprint sensor. The top and bottom bezels may be thick, but they are actually quite useful when you want to hold the iPad horizontally like this. There is a good area here for you to rest your thumb. If you want to hold it like this in vertical format, you would have to rest your thumb on the edge of the iPad. And this iPad is light enough for you to hold and draw while you're standing. It weighs 456 grams, which is quite lightweight for a tablet this size. As you can see, the screen is quite reflective. The colors look great out of the box. It supports a wide color gamut of P3. Inside we have some improvements. It now uses an A12 Bionic chip. It has 3 gigs of memory and 64 gigs of storage. Enough with the specifications, let's draw. Before you can use the Apple Pencil, you would need to pair it with the iPad. To do that, you have to uncap the back of the Apple Pencil. This is still the 1st generation Apple Pencil where the charging mechanism is at the back, so you have to poke it right at the port below the fingerprint sensor and it would ask you to pair. So just press the button and it's paired. One silly thing about this is because the iPad Air is thinner compared to the Apple Pencil, when you put them on the table like this, the Apple Pencil is going to raise the iPad Air off the table. Now the Apple Pencil works with Bluetooth, so if you turn off Bluetooth, it's not going to work. Each time you turn off Bluetooth, you would have to pair the Apple Pencil again. So let me turn this back on. It's still not working, so I have to pair it again. Bluetooth pairing and the way it charges the Apple Pencil may not look elegant, but it works. Alright, let's open up Medibank Paint Pro. This is a sketch that I drew this morning. Let me just show you what I have here. So when it comes to zooming in and out, it's very smooth. Panning, rotating, all the navigation gestures, very smooth. Let me close this and create a new file. So let's create an A4. This 10.5-inch screen is a very nice size to work with. When I compare it to an A5 sketchbook, I'm going to align this to the top. You can see it has more vertical depth. The size for the user interface elements like the buttons, the menus, they are big and easy to click. This is a laminated screen, which means the gap between the glass surface and the actual LCD, it's very small. What this means is when you are drawing, the lines would appear as if they are directly beneath the pen tip. It's really nice. The Apple Pencil is a very sensitive and accurate stylus. The lines, they always appear where I want them to. Palm rejection works really well. I can draw with my fingers and there won't be any stray strokes. Now comparing this Apple Pencil to the 2nd generation where you can have the shortcut to switch between pen and eraser, this doesn't have any shortcuts. So I have to press the eraser button manually, which is not really a big deal. Navigation is very smooth, very responsive. And the lines, they come out very quickly as well. So this app is Medibank Paint Pro. It has some finger gesture shortcuts as well. A lot of artists like to use Procreate. I use Procreate as well, but sometimes I also like to use Medibank Paint Pro. And this brush that I'm using, this is the Sumi brush. It's really nice. So pressure sensitivity works really well. The initial activation force is very minimal, so you can use the lightest of pressure to get really thin lines. As long as the pen tip is touching the glass surface, you will be able to get a line. It's that sensitive. And when you press down hard, obviously you're going to get thicker lines. The transition between thin and thick, it's very smooth. It's very nice. The brightness of this iPad can go up to 500 nits, which is really bright. It's even brighter compared to some desktop monitors. But what that means is it's going to give out some heat. So right now I'm at 75 or maybe 80% brightness, and I can feel that this iPad is slightly warm. It's still comfortable enough for me to draw for hours. If you're using this outdoors under the sun, under the shade but still under the sun, the brightness will go all the way up and your iPad will be significantly hotter. So that's something to take note of if you want to use your iPad outdoors. I really enjoy drawing with Medibank Paint Pro because the user interface is very desktop-like. We have the layers, the brushes, the color palette, color wheel, and you can turn them all off to get the maximum drawing area. Let me draw a bit faster to let you see how responsive this iPad is. There is no Pro motion, unlike the iPad Pro, which supports a frame rate of 120 Hertz. So here it's just 60 frames or 60 Hertz, but it's still very responsive. By responsive, I mean the lines, they come out almost instantly whenever I draw. So this is great for quick sketching. The curves, they also taper very nicely, very smoothly and gradually. Let's test the diagonal lines. So with some tablets, when you draw diagonal lines very slowly, you get wobble like this. This is a bit exaggerated, but you will get something like this. But on the iPad Air, this looks very straight. So there's definitely no issues with diagonal jitter. And now let's color this. To save some time, I'm going to close up this and then use this magic paint bucket to fill in all the colors. The overall drawing experience is fantastic. The laminated screen contributes significantly to the drawing experience because this is something that you can see. This is how it looks like on the non-laminated screen. Can you see the gap between the line and the pen tip? With the non-laminated screen, when you are tapping on the screen with the Apple Pencil or even with your fingers, there is this hollow sound. When you are tapping on the laminated screen, there is this more solid sound. With the release of this iPad Air 3, Apple has stopped selling the 10.5-inch iPad Pro. If you are deciding whether to get the iPad Air 3 or the refurbished 10.5-inch iPad Pro, which is actually cheaper compared to this iPad Air 3. This is US $499. The refurbished 10.5-inch iPad Pro is $469. If you want to get the 10.5-inch iPad Pro, go for it because it's cheaper. The processor may not be as good, but you are not going to notice anything different when it comes to drawing. It is still going to be very responsive. The lines are still going to come out very fast, and there is also the laminated display. And also with the iPad Pro, you have the 4-speaker system rather than the 2-speaker system here. There are only 2 speakers here, but the iPad Pro has 1, 2, 3, 4. The sound quality of the iPad Pro is significantly better. Battery life of this tablet is fantastic, by the way, but it really depends on what you are doing. If you are just watching videos, browsing the web, checking emails, you can get maybe 8 hours. If you are doing processor-intensive tasks like editing videos, photos, if you are drawing outdoors where the sun is very bright, where the tablet has to really crank up the brightness. All those will affect the battery life. So if you are drawing under very sunny conditions, I would say maybe you can get around 5 hours, 6 hours. If you're drawing indoors, maybe 6-7 hours, but it really depends on what you are doing. One of the main advantages when it comes to drawing with the iPad is this is really convenient to use for drawing, for sketching, for drafting out ideas. And there are a lot of useful drawing apps, very capable, very powerful drawing apps from the Apple Store. But the thing that I really like about drawing with the iPad is it is so convenient. So I can draw something very quickly, and if I need to get up and go, I can just close the iPad cover, close the case, and just get up and go. I don't have anything to clean up. You don't really see me draw digitally a lot on this channel though, because I still prefer traditional medium. Drawing digitally and drawing traditionally with pen and paper, it's a very different experience. I prefer the tactile experience. If you want to get a more tactile feel when it comes to drawing on the iPad, perhaps you can get a matte screen protector to get that paper-like feel when you're drawing on the surface. However, there are some downsides to the matte screen protector. The one significant downside is the anti-glare thing will create a haze, and that would severely affect the color accuracy and the contrast level. So that's my iPad Pro with the matte screen protector, and this is the iPad Air without the matte screen protector. You will see reflections, but you can see the colors, the contrast is significantly better without the matte screen protector. If you're someone who wants to pick up digital art by getting a tablet like this, yes, the iPad Air, it's a good tablet for drawing digitally. I am very sure you will have a lot of fun drawing digitally on the iPad. So this is MediaBang Paint Pro, and now let's go check out Procreate. So I want to create a custom size. Oh, by the way, can you see all the fingerprints and the marks made by the Apple Pencil? So this is something you can expect if you do not have a matte screen protector. With a matte screen protector, it's easier to wipe out all those fingerprints, but with reflective glossy screens like this is something you would have to work with. So I'm going to create an A3 size canvas at 300 dpi. So that's 42 centimeters by 29.7. And here it says that we can create a maximum of 7 layers. On the iPad Pro with the same A3 at 300 dpi, we can get a maximum of 26 layers. So is it because of the lack of RAM that we cannot create as many layers compared to the iPad Pro? The iPad Pro has 4 gigs of RAM, the iPad Air 3 has 3 gigs of RAM. The iPad 9.7 inch from 2018 has 2 gigs of RAM, and the number of layers it can create is 7. It's the same as the iPad Air, so 2 gigs, 7 layers, 3 gigs, 7 layers, 4 gigs, 26 layers. So I'm not too sure what affects the number of layers you can create. Let me drop this down to an A4 size at 300 dpi, and now we can go up to 19 layers. 19 layers is a lot of layers. Definitely more than what I usually use. So let me color this. I'm going to pick a very textured brush. The fat nozzle, I'm going to change it to red so that you can see what's going on, and I'm going to tap on the screen. I'm also going to draw here, and this looks and feels very responsive. I'm going to use my finger to tap. The reason why I'm using my finger is because if I use the Apple Pencil, it would rely on the pressure to get the really saturated strokes. With my finger, it's much faster. Let's change the mode to multiply. So there is definitely no issues when it comes to using big and textured brushes. Let me delete the background. When it comes to drawing, seriously, Procreate, this is one of the best drawing apps out there. It's very responsive, has a lot of wonderful features. There is wonderful pressure support, fantastic palm rejection. If you draw with your finger, you can still get the stroke, but when you're resting your palm on the screen and drawing, no stray strokes. There is tilt sensitivity and it works very well. This brush that I'm using, this is 6B pencil in Procreate, and as I draw with the Apple pencil on the side like this, I can get very broad strokes. If I draw with the Apple pencil like this at normal angle, or with the Apple pencil vertically like this, I get thin strokes. If I press down hard, I get bold lines, but I will not get the broad lines. I can only get the broad lines when I tilt the Apple pencil on the side like this. And there is also pressure when the Apple pencil is on the side like this, so you can draw very lightly for those smooth light shading, and press down harder for the thicker, darker, broad strokes. Having pressure and tilt sensitivity working together can produce some interesting effects. Sometimes the lines can be thin, they can be thick, sometimes can be darker or lighter. Really depends on how you use, depends on the angle of the Apple pencil. So when you want to get the broader strokes, you can just tilt the pencil and you can shade with it. This is very, very intuitive. So see here the transition between the broad strokes and the thin strokes. So you can tilt the Apple pencil like this, and you can have it transition into a thin stroke by changing the angle. And it works very well. So you can change it from thin to thick as well, or from thick to thin. Even on the side, the Apple pencil is very sensitive. The last thing I want to talk about is pricing. So with the iPad Air 3, the 64 gigs model, we are looking at $499 US. The 256 gigs model is $649. If you compare this price with the iPad Pro 10.5 inch refurbished model, 64 gigs is $469, 256 gigs is $559. So both prices are lower compared to the iPad Air 3, and this price here, $559, is significantly lower compared to this 256 gigs iPad Air 3. So as far as drawing is concerned, you're not going to notice anything different. Get the iPad Pro 10.5 refurbished if you can find this, or if you can find a brand new iPad Pro 10.5 at a good price, get that as well, because the 4 speakers on the side, they are really much better compared to the dual speakers on the iPad Air 3. Yes, the processor is better on the Air 3, but the improvement in processing power, that's not something you can notice very easily. In terms of value for money, if you are just looking for a tablet to draw with, if you are just looking for a good tablet to draw with, my recommendation goes with the iPad Pro 10.5 refurbished. My second recommendation is the iPad Air 3. My third recommendation is actually the iPad 6. But I do recommend you go for either these two because of the laminated display. The laminated display really makes the drawing experience better, and that I think is something you should seriously consider getting. The Apple iPad Air 3 is a fantastic tablet for those who want a good drawing experience but don't want to pay the hefty price for the iPad Pro. This is a very good product. Whether or not it's worth the money really depends on you and also the type of work you do. That's all for today's review. If you have any questions, let me know in the comment section. Thanks for watching. I hope this video is helpful. See you in the next one. Bye!